Am I the jerk for telling mom she'll be happier once I move out? Hi y'all, I am a 20-year-old female and have always been close with my mom after she and my dad split up when I was a baby. I love my mom to bits as she's always been there for me, even financially when I know she can't afford it. We're super close, however, ever since I turned 17. She changed, seemingly since I've become independent. We have different body types. She is unhealthily skinny, has to work out daily, and has a bad diet. I've seen her run on just a bowl of cereal for a day. It's bad. I've always had wide shoulders and went to a school with a uniform policy, so I got bullied for looking wide in my blazer. As an adult, I have E-cup breasts and an hourglass figure. I'm curvy, work out often, am a vegetarian, and keep myself healthy. This doesn't stop her from saying as if I'm obese, "When you're so big you can't move, don't come crying to me." It's to the point where our family friends have told her she's being mean. It's that bad. She brought that exact phrase up because we were arguing over it, and our family was like, "Yeah, that's mean." She also has a bit of a complex to do with chores. She says things like I'm always doing everything. She's done it since I was about 15. When I was younger, it made me feel really guilty because I obviously couldn't do everything. Now that I'm 20, I do everything I can to help. I'm a university student, just finished my freshman year, so I'm only home during seasonal holidays. I lived in the dorms and developed so much individuality and independence. I also met my long-term partner, we'll call him D. Mom Loves D. But again, she does little things like mention my weight in front of him. He doesn't care about that, and gets upset when I get annoyed. She will call or text me when D and I are out on a date. Anyway, this is what happened tonight. Paraphrased. My job allows me to work seasonally when I'm home as part of my contract. I'm working a 40-hour work week so I can afford rent for a student house, not just a dorm. Mom works from home. I worked from 7:00 a.m. to 12:00 p.m. today, then had to go out. I got home at 3:00 p.m., played some games, and ended up napping at 4:00 p.m. I woke up at 6:00 p.m. and mom cooked dinner. Great. I go downstairs, this happens. Me, hi, that smells good. Mom, convenient that you only get up once I've cooked. Me, knowing this is gonna go bad. Okay. I asked her halfway through dinner. Me, what's wrong? Mom, I just do everything. Me, I disagree, but okay. Mom, I clean this house daily. Me, you do. But I cook often and do our laundry on top of work. You do a lot of our chores because it's convenient that you're home. Mom, well, if I didn't, who would? Me, okay. I started getting mad by this point, so I walked away. We usually end up arguing, but instead I very nonchalantly said to her, "At least I move away again in 2 weeks. Then you might be happy." This sent her crazy. She was yelling at me, she was upset, but she makes me feel very small when she comments on me, and I wanted her to feel that. Am I the jerk? You are not the problem. It's clear that your mom's comments about your body are unfair and probably stem from her own issues. Moving out will likely be healthier for you, giving you some distance from her toxic behavior. It's also a step towards not letting her resentment and manipulation affect your well-being. Am I the jerk for telling a customer that if they want to see me create something more complicated, they should buy it first? I am a 58-year-old woman who works as a glassblower and owns a working studio. This means I allow people to come into the studio and watch us blow glass, and we have an attached gift shop for purchases. I have been doing this for 25 years. We are open 360 days a year, and I work 7 days a week. Last week, when temperatures were above 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside, I had a family come in to watch glass blowing. Traditionally, when we blow, we offer a brief history of glass blowing and explain the steps we are taking in creating the item. On this occasion, it was mid-afternoon and the temperature outside neared 105 degrees Fahrenheit with the heat index. Inside the studio, it was upwards of 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the gift shop area and over 140 degrees Fahrenheit in the blowing area. I have one gas-fired glass furnace that holds 300 pounds of molten glass kept at 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit constantly. I also have a glory hole that maintains a temperature of 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit and 2 annealers at 905 degrees Fahrenheit. The ambient temperature in the blowing area, with no doors or windows open and no vent fan, exceeds 160 degrees Fahrenheit in the building. In the summer, we have 4 1800 CFM roof vent fans that pull the heat out of the building, allowing us to work in the summer heat, and it drops the temperature to a barely tolerable 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. We have a space separate from the studio with 2 20,000 BTU air conditioners to cool down in. On this occasion, I was blowing simple items that can be completed quickly and allow me to step away from the heat often to keep from suffering heat stroke. After 20 minutes of watching and asking the usual questions, their children were running through the studio unchecked. I stopped blowing to cool down. Instead of thanking me for letting them watch, I was met with complaints that they had traveled a number of miles and were hoping I would be making something more complicated and intricate. I was hot and exhausted from standing in an excessively hot environment and admit to being less than courteous when I answered. I stopped their 4-year-old child from running through my art studio with a vase clutched in her little arms and told them if they wanted to see something more complicated, they should buy it first. They became upset, called me an inappropriate name, and left. I admit to being frustrated by their lack of attention to their children's behavior, and perhaps allowed the heat to loosen my tongue more than was advisable. But I really do not think I was out of line. Was I in the wrong? Your actions were justified. Demanding that you make an intricate art piece in a room over 100 degrees is ridiculous, and letting their child run around a room with such delicate and expensive pieces is just appalling. If they're going to come to a working studio, it's unrealistic to think that you'll put on a show of some kind just because they decided to drive over. They should watch Blown Away on Netflix if they want to see intricate pieces from the comfort of their home. Am I the jerk for refusing to visit my mother-in-law's house? I, 29-year-old male, lost the mother of my child 5 years ago because of maternal death. My son luckily survived, but he sadly suffers from renal insufficiency, which means his kidneys function poorly. I try to avoid visiting my mother-in-law's house because she has several habits that can be dangerous to my son. She picks her nose. She goes to the bathroom and does not wash her hands afterward. She coughs without covering her mouth. She cooks without washing her hands. Sometimes she even picks her nose while cooking and obviously does not wash her hands. About 2 months ago, my son and I ate at her house. She did not eat anything, so I started to get worried. She told me she had diarrhea and had been throwing up. I immediately stopped eating and told my son to stop eating. I threw the food away. She called me overprotective and told me to stop being dramatic. I explained to her that my son already has terrible health issues that she is aware of, and that him getting sick is the last thing I want. She just told us to leave. Before leaving, I told her that keeping everything sterile, going to work, cooking, and being a caring parent is not an easy job, and that she should try that herself before judging the way I care about my son. 2 days later, my son and I had vomiting and diarrhea. I was not that sick, but my son was in extreme pain and in terrible condition. He had to stay in his hospital room for almost 2 weeks. Not a single call or message from her. Luckily, about a week ago, my son got better. Yesterday, she invited us over, but I refused to go. I told her that she put my son in a dangerous situation and that we are not ready to see her again. She called me a jerk and told me to call her after I visit a therapist who helps me with my germophobia. I feel like a jerk for cutting her off and making her feel gross, but I am so tired of working so hard. I am exhausted. I work so hard just for my work to be thrown down the drain by my own family. Sometimes I even question if what I am doing is right. Sometimes I feel like they are right. Maybe I am overprotective. Sorry for bad English. Am I the jerk? You are not in the wrong here. Your responsibility is to protect your son from harm, especially given his existing health issues. Your mother-in-law's hygiene habits are not only unhygienic, but also potentially dangerous for him. When you are ready, consider inviting her to join you for dinner at a restaurant where she can't criticize your habits or home, and your son still gets to visit with her. Am I the jerk for telling my friend my feelings? I am completely lost and unsure of how to proceed. Recently, I was told that in order to see my niece, I must also spend solo time with her stepsister. I raised my niece for the first 10 years of her life, as she lived with me during that time. My half-sister, her mother, has been in and out of rehab, and we no longer speak. My only option to see my niece is through her father, who has since married and adopted his wife's 7-year-old daughter. The first year after my niece's father remarried was great. I was able to reconnect with my niece, whom I love as my own child. I got to know her stepmother and her stepsister. While my niece and I continued our solo adventures as we always had, I also spent some time with the entire family. I have even developed a friendship with her stepmother. However, due to a series of surgeries, I could not visit for a year and a half. Despite this, I felt confident that my relationship with my niece remained strong, as I always felt welcomed. Now that I am slowly recovering, we were planning to resume our solo outings, but the stepmother approached me with a request. Since her daughter has become attached to me and sees me as her aunt, she asked that I spend solo time with her as well. This left me confused because I have only spent a handful of group outings with her daughter. The stepmother argued that since her daughter now sees me as Aunt Jax, it would not be fair to exclude her, as it could hurt her feelings. I have always made sure her daughter felt seen and valued during our group time, providing equal attention and gifts to both girls. I never corrected her daughter for calling me Aunt Jax because it is what my niece calls me. When I expressed to the stepmother that I care for her daughter but see her as my friend's child rather than my niece, things became tense. She was clearly hurt, and our conversation turned uncomfortable. She insisted that because I am seen as Aunt Jax to her daughter, I need to take on the roles and responsibilities of that title. I tried to explain that my primary focus is my relationship with my niece, whom I have loved and cared for as my own child. While I am not against developing a bond with her daughter, I feel this relationship should grow naturally over time, not be forced upon us. Unfortunately, they've made it clear that spending solo time with their daughter is now a condition for me to see my niece. This has raised several red flags for me, especially since the stepmother questioned when I would make the time if I truly wanted to foster a relationship. I am upset and hurt that I am being asked to fulfill their expectations without them considering my feelings. It is concerning that my time with my niece, which has always been special to us, is now being controlled rather than respected. Maybe it's best to explain to the 7-year-old that she's too young for solo adventures right now, and that she'll be old enough when she's, say, 12. This way, it sets a clear boundary without outright rejection. It's understandable that the stepmother wants her daughter to feel included, but forcing a relationship isn't the solution. Hopefully, this can help maintain the special bond with the niece, while slowly developing a natural connection with her stepsister over time. Am I the jerk for refusing to bring my ex's other children along on days out with our 2 sons? I am a 32-year-old man and have 2 sons, Jamie, who is 11 years old, and Jaden, who is 10 years old. Their mother and I were high school sweethearts, who had the boys before we finished college. We had planned to get married, but then I found out my ex was cheating on me and I broke up with her. Jaden was 14 months old at the time. We split custody, and I paid child support for the first 18 months post-breakup until my ex earned a similar amount to me, which meant child support was ceased, and costs were simply split without anyone giving extra. My ex had another son 2 years after we broke up. The father was not in the picture. She told me he was the guy she cheated on me with and that she realized he was a terrible person. She asked if I would consider adopting her son and raising him as my own alongside our boys. I told her I was not going to do that. We ended up arguing about this for so long that she had time to get into another relationship and move this man in, so I told her that he should be a father figure to her son since they planned on building a life together. Within a year, that guy was gone, and she had a daughter he fathered. I continued being a dad to my sons only. I did not interact with her other 2 children, but I would see them from a distance during exchanges. She asked me to adopt both her additional children, stating they needed a father. I told her to go and find their fathers then. She eased up when she met her husband. I thought maybe it was finally the end of her trying to make me responsible for her other children. She has a child with her husband now too, so there are 5 children in her household when our boys are included, but it has not lasted. My ex has admitted her husband is not involved in the lives of her other children, and they are still missing out on having a father. So she asked me to include her 3 other children, which includes the child she has with her husband, in the days out I have with my sons. She said especially during summer and around Christmas when I take them to do fun holiday-themed activities, it is not something she can give her other children, and she wants them to experience these things also. She finds out when I do these things with my boys because she will question them about their time with me. Each time she gets angry. But when the boys were with her 2 weeks ago, she got extra angry. She had mentioned to me that her son, the oldest of her other 3 kids, did not get much for his birthday, and she had wanted to make it up to him. That was meant to mean me. So when she heard our boys and I had visited an amusement park around his birthday, she blew a fuse and asked me how I can be so unkind to children. She told me I should be doing better as a father. Am I the wrong one in this situation? Your ex has some audacity, doesn't she? She keeps coming back to you because you're the only one responsible enough to be involved in your kids' lives. You are not obligated to play dad to her other children at all. She needs to focus on giving her children the best life she can, not on finding a man to take care of them so she doesn't have to. Am I the jerk for not taking care of my ex's kids while he's on a birthday trip with his new girlfriend? A little background. My ex cheated on me with multiple people. In short, he got one of them pregnant, a 22-year-old female coworker of mine, and left me for her. She immediately moved in with him and his children. She did not keep the baby and after a year left him because she did not like his children and did not want to be a mother to his 2 daughters, aged 14 and 12. I, however, adore his girls, and they love me. I have known them for 5 years now. I have been the only stable woman in their lives. Their mother loves them and tries her best, but has a mental disorder and is in and out of mental institutions every few months. I stayed in contact with them after the breakup and have gotten even closer to them since all this. Fast forward to now, he is currently dating a girl who wants a big trip for her 30th birthday, so he has neglected bills, including one with my name on it, to take her to New York City for 5 days. In fact, he is supposed to be evicted the day he leaves. She has resented my presence since day one and wants me out of the picture. I am not even saying I do not understand because I am his ex, but she also knew the girls and I were super close before they started dating. 2 weeks ago, the ex, the girlfriend, and I were at a mutual friend's birthday. We kept our distance except at the end when I said hello and asked if he was dropping the girls off the next day or if I was picking them up because I was taking them to an amusement park. She said he and I could talk about it later and grabbed his hand and said they were leaving and dragged him off. Then this week, I was dropping something off for the girls and was made to abruptly leave because she was coming over and she would be in a bad mood the rest of the night if she knew I had been there. All this brings us to today. The mother had to leave again and will now not be here to watch the girls when he goes on the trip. Although when he booked this trip a month ago, she was not going to be around and he had no plan to begin with. No surprise, he wants me to help out. On one hand, the girls would be happiest with me. It is the easiest solution. I am the only one close to their school, and I love my time with them. However, she hates any interaction I have with them. I have to tiptoe around to not upset her, but now that they are in a bind, it is so great I am around because it helps her out. None of it sits well with me. Am I the antagonist if I say they need to find someone else? You are not in the wrong here. These are not your kids either biologically or legally, so it's not your responsibility to babysit them. You should decide where you want this relationship to go and set clear boundaries with your ex. For the sake of the girls, whatever choice you make should be deliberate and communicated to them. Also, get your name off that bill to protect your credit. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.